Well, here it is, my friend. 62 years later, and I'm asking the same questions that I've been asking every year for as long as I can remember. What happened? What happened to this president that we theoretically love? That we theoretically remember where we were and what were we doing and all that. But yet, when it comes to actually asking the questions, we're busy. We're busy. But here's something which is kind of interesting. This is the case against LBJ. You see, the official story still doesn't add up. It is an incredible story, but we never hear it regarding LBJ's point of view. See, the official story says that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. This is the story you've heard, right? That he took a mail order rifle, the Mannlicher Carcano, with a cheap scope, but that wasn't aligned correctly. He fired 3 shots perfectly at a moving target from a 6th-floor window with no spotter, no support, no training. Well, he had some Marine training, but still, no exit strategy, no motive, no hesitation. And if you believe that, well, then you also believe magic bullets curve in midair and rifles fire themselves and single cartridges can cause several wounds in 2 different men without slowing down. You'll believe that, without slowing down once. The Warren Commission wants you to accept that kind of physics. They want you to nod and be obeisant and move along. They want Oswald to be a lone drifter that nobody really understood. A lone drifter, a nobody with no one behind him. Because the moment you admit conspiracy, you're forced to ask the most dangerous question in American history. Who benefited? Who did it? Who was involved? Cui bono? Cui prodest? Richard Nixon said it best. Put somebody in a lonely position and they're going to talk. Isn't that something? Well, Oswald talked. He said it straight. I'm just a patsy. 2 days later, he was shot on live television by a mafia nightclub owner who claimed he did it for Jackie Benefit's grief or benefit, and we still don't know what the hell that means. Now think about it. A nightclub owner walks straight into a police station and kills the suspect with the entire world watching, and we're expected to treat that as somewhat random passion? Just a coincidence, just emotion. See, that's not law enforcement. That's a cleanup job. And the real story was this. Lyndon Johnson was about to be removed from the ticket, dropped, finished. He was leaking political poison. Bobby Baker and Billy Saul Estes had testified about corruption kickbacks, federal grain scams, murder, and abuse of office. Don Reynolds was set to testify that LBJ had accepted illegal payments through a phony advertising scheme at his wife's TV station in Austin. Bobby Kennedy knew it all and was ready to shove LBJ into a courtroom and ruin him forever. Newspapers already had the headlines prepared. They were ready to go. One more hearing, and Johnson would have been indicted. That was the week of the assassination. Not years before, not after, that week. So, needless to say, LBJ had motive beyond ambition. He had motive for survival. And this man, you don't want to get into a corner because there is nobody like him in terms of sheer ambulatory psychopathy ready to leap on you if you challenge him. Every witness said the same thing. He would go to prison if the Baker scandal blew open. And Kennedy was already arranging replacements for 1964. Even Evelyn Lincoln, the president's secretary, confirmed it. See, Kennedy said before leaving for Dallas, I'm dumping Johnson after the election. Those were the last political plans he ever spoke. That information alone tells you why Dallas mattered. And then there's the location. Dallas, Texas, LBJ's home turf, his territory, the one place where he controlled police, sheriffs, judges, political machines, and backroom operators. No such plot could have worked at Chicago or Miami or Tampa or Los Angeles with Kennedy's people nearby. No, 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 no. They needed Dallas. They needed control. They needed the Texas School Book Depository. And strangely enough, that building was purchased 1 year before the assassination, by LBJ's oil ally D.H. Byrd, who ran the Civil Air Patrol, that once included a teenage cadet named Lee Harvey Oswald and another guy, David Ferry. Remember that name? Both later tied to anti-Castro operations and CIA channels. Oswald was not a lone nut. He was being tracked long before anyone knew his name. Oh, yeah. Now, when Kennedy arrived in Dallas, they forced the motorcade route away from a safe location, the Women's Building, which had only 3 doors and strong security. See, they overrode every safety protocol and redirected the route through Dealey Plaza with hairpin turns and open angles and vulnerable slow speeds. Connolly, who was LBJ's longtime political partner, fought viciously to move the luncheon to the Trade Mart, which had dozens of entrances and catwalks perfect for shooters. Why? Because the safest plan was rejected. Because someone needed exposure. Because someone needed the kill zone. Nothing about that change made sense, politically or logistically, unless it was the real purpose for the trip. See, Johnson stayed at Clint Murchison's home the night before. Important men were there. J. Edgar Hoover walked in. Reportedly, Richard Nixon was there. So they say. Texas oil kings were there. LBJ's mistress, Madeline Brown, was there, and she testified that he emerged from a closed-door meeting and told her directly, quote, "After tomorrow, those Kennedys will never embarrass me again. People can debate memory. They can argue hearsay. But presidential schedules don't lie." J. Edgar Hoover was indeed in Dallas that night. He had flown in quietly, and the very next morning, he would be calling Johnson Mr. President. Ain't that something? Now, look at Johnson's behavior. Very interesting. On the morning of the assassination, he erupted when he learned that Kennedy planned to seat Senator Ralph Yarborough, the liberal Texan, next to Jackie instead of conservative Governor Connolly. Now, Johnson shouted and cursed. Secretaries heard it through the walls. Why did he care? Why? Why would he fight so savagely to put Connolly in that seat? Connolly was his political soldier, his trusted ally. Johnson needed him inside the kill vehicle, not as the target, but as confirmation. He needed someone who wouldn't talk, someone who knew how to keep quiet. See, Connolly was hit, but survived. His first words were, "They're going to kill us all." Now, even he knew an ambush when he saw it. It's pretty obvious. Now, think about this. LBJ rode in a separate car, listening through an open security channel. He ducked before shots were fired. He was already below window level when the bullet struck. And then the strangest command of all was issued. At Parkland Hospital, they swore Johnson in as president, not after hearings, but minutes after death, while Kennedy's body was still warm, and Jackie stood beside him, very still, sitting in her blood-stained suit. They demanded that she stand beside Johnson for the photo. Even the judge who conducted the swearing-in, later said it felt rushed and forced and choreographed. Why? Why now? Why the speed? Johnson needed that photo. He needed the cameras. He needed the image frozen in time. The nation had a new president, and the new president was safe. He knew exactly what he was doing. And within hours, all federal attention shifted. It was Oswald. It was Russia. It was Cuba. It was the lone gunman. Meanwhile, the actual FBI tapes from Mexico City showed that the man speaking Russian in those phone calls was not Oswald. Hoover told Johnson that on the morning of November the 23rd, the tapes exist. His exact words were, "The man we have on the tape is not Lee Harvey Oswald." That means someone impersonated him. That means someone framed him. That means conspiracy. Hoover knew it. Johnson knew it. And they locked it away. They locked it away for decades. But nobody's really looking for it because people were still shocked by this. Now consider fingerprints. LBJ's hitman, Malcolm Wallace, remember this guy, Mac Wallace? He left a print on a box in the 6th floor sniper nest. Now, Wallace was convicted years earlier for murder, but received a suspended sentence through Johnson's brilliant political protection. His fingerprint from Dallas matched his criminal file. Later, forensic studies found a 34-point match, they say, impossible to fake. So who controlled Wallace? Who saved him from prison? Who used him for muscle? The answer every single time is Lyndon Johnson. Now, witnesses died fast, and as you know that story, single car crashes, gunshots in basements, sudden sickness. Books were suppressed, reporters threatened, researchers were mocked. Even today, conspiracy theory. Don't forget that famous CIA memo, that operative that was sent, that working memo about how to weaponize the term conspiracy theory. Johnson formed the Warren Commission behind closed doors before Kennedy was even buried and staffed it with political loyalists, including Allen Dulles, the CIA chief that Kennedy had fired after the Bay of Pigs fiasco. Remember that? I'm going to shatter the CIA into 1,000 pieces? Not so fast, Jack. Imagine that. The man that Kennedy removed for incompetence was selected by LBJ to investigate his death. That's not law, that's control. The Warren Commission, the joke, ignored 50 witnesses or so who heard shots from the grassy knoll. They ignored the bullet hole through the windshield. Through the windshield. Remember that story, how the car was immediately sent to some Ford factory to be replaced? Remember how quickly they cleaned the crime scene? I mean, this is incredible. They ignored the throat wound suggesting a frontal shot. They ignored the smell of gunpowder at street level. They ignored every medical professional at Parkland that day who said the wound was an entry, not an exit. They rewrote physics, they rewrote law, they rewrote medicine, and time itself to force one truth. Oswald did it alone. That was their focus. It was chaos. It was nuts, not conspiracy. And America moved on. 62 years later, think about this. Here we are, 62 years later. Americans do not move on. They ask questions. They see new evidence. They read real eyewitness accounts that were buried and shielded and ridiculed. They recognize patterns. When a president threatens oil interests, when he speaks against the Federal Reserve, when he tries to control the CIA, when he moves against corrupt senators, when he wants to get rid of a war, when he signals he will tear down patronage networks, someone listens, someone acts, someone decides that history must change. And on November the 22nd, 1963, history changed and a lesson was learned. Lyndon Johnson was sworn in that afternoon. And where did his priority go? Straight to Vietnam. Massive escalation. Bell helicopter, Brown and Root, General Dynamics, defense contracting, billions, all Texas, all LBJ's donors, all money that never would have flowed had Kennedy lived. And what vanished immediately? The threat to the oil depletion allowance. Those oil kings got exactly what they wanted. LBJ didn't just take power. He paid off his investors. And that's not accidental. That's not a lone gunman. That is organized removal, the expurgation, the ablation of a sitting president by a man staring at prison if things went differently. And the Warren Commission feared national panic. Maybe they feared civil war, who knows? Maybe they feared the truth. But truth isn't a luxury, it's survival. And pretending that Oswald was a lone gunman, when evidence shows planning and architecture and structure and money, that's not patriotism, it's surrender. Oswald didn't kill Kennedy. Many believe, and the case can be made, that Johnson did. Not with his hands, but with his network, with his territory, with his desperation, with his hatred of Bobby Kennedy and the Kennedys, with his knowledge that one more hearing would have ended him forever. When Kennedy died, so did every federal investigation into LBJ's corruption. Everything disappeared. And suddenly the most investigated politician in America became the president. Ain't that something? That's not coincidence. That's motive, means, opportunity, all wrapped into one. So here we are today. 62 years later, the question remains, if Johnson wasn't guilty, why did everything that he touched before Dallas lead to indictment and everything after lead to silence? Why did witnesses feel hunted? Why did researchers feel watched? Why did the CIA hide Mexico City files for half a century? Why did Hoover admit on tape that someone impersonated Oswald? Why did D.H. Byrd buy the building? Why did John Connally scream before the bullet struck him? Why was Johnson ducking before anyone heard shots? Why was the route changed? Why the rush to coronate and crown the man who profited from it all? And why does the United States government to this day still refuse to release every single file without redaction? And you wonder why the Epstein's file is difficult? This makes the Epstein file look like the Epstein file. The answer is simple, because the truth is complicated. And because if truth is acknowledged, if the truth is verified, the story of America changes. Elections become theater, power becomes illusion, and the presidency becomes a prize rather than a duty. And one Texan rise to power becomes the darkest warning ever recorded. So, don't say history won't repeat itself. History already did. November the 22nd, 1963 was not conspiracy theory. It was conspiracy fact. And the man who benefited most sat in the Oval Office the next morning, calm, cool, confident, untouched. Lyndon Baines Johnson, the first president of the modern coup. And this story is beyond fascinating. And do you think anybody today cares still? No. And it's the end. And we live in a world supposedly where we love true crime. Oh, we love these true crime. They just sold some teenage true crime show for like $50 million. That's nothing. This is real. It's right here. But there's no insatiable yearning and addiction to the truth. Well, there is for me, and there is for you, and there is for us. What do you think, my friends? Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Don't let this man's death. Remember, it's not John Kennedy, it's our president. This was a coup d'etat. This was a palace coup. This is something that we as Americans should pay attention to. It's not liberal or Democrat or the Kennedys. That's not it. So please like this video. It's very critical that you do. Please hit that little bell and so be subscribed to new videos and live streams. And please subscribe to our humble channel. 50, 60, 70% of the people who watch our videos don't subscribe. And we need your cooperation for our metrics and our growth. Because we want the truth as do you. That sounds better. So comment and answer the questions I provided. Comment as you see fit.